Hello everyone and welcome to the Baker College Writing Guide. In this quick video, we're going to discuss the differences between trying to find scholarly sources using a database and using a general web browser. You'll find that in most of your college courses, you'll be required to complete at least one writing assignment or more. In these assignments, your professors and instructors will ask that you use scholarly sources, including books, scholarly journal articles, and an array of other popular journals and newspapers. Many students use search engines such as Google, Bing, and Yahoo to find research. But why do professors and instructors suggest you use the databases instead? Well, let's take a look. For the purposes of this video, I've decided that I'm going to write an essay on the benefits of learning a second language, and so I've logged into Google and just typed that out in the search bar. Now a number of results come up, actually more than 1 million, so let's take a look at what these results have to say. Now when I click on the very first result that appears in my Google search, it directs me to a somewhat professional looking website. I can see that this is a very well organized web page, but is it credible? As I scroll through, I see that this is called the Top 10 Reasons to Learn Languages, and there does appear to be some good data here. That being said, I can peruse this using my critical thinking skills to discover whether or not this is a credible, reliable source. One of the first indicators to me is that there is no writer listed on this web article, so there's no one to hold accountable. Secondly, there's no date that indicates when this was published, so this particular article could be more than a decade old. I would never know. What's also interesting about this particular web page is that there are some clickable links that take us to the sources used in this article, but these don't actually direct me to the actual source itself. So I'd have to go and search for this particular article on my own if I wanted to. So while this looks pretty great, it's not scholarly and it's really not in-depth. There are only 10 tips listed here and they're all short paragraphs. Now I just went ahead and clicked on the next top search result, and it's interestingly enough another top 10 list. When I look at this web page, again, it looks very professional and well organized, but there is once again not an author listed and there is no date that includes when this was published. If I really get critical about this, I can see that this is all related to something called the Eaton Institute, and ostensibly the Eaton Institute wants me to log in and possibly take their courses. So how are my Google results different than what happens when I start a search using the Baker College Research Guides? I'm just here at the main landing page, which is guides.baker.edu, and this will direct you to a number of helpful scholarly resources. You can feel free to click on Find Books and eBooks, and that works quite well, especially for a longer project, but most students prefer to use articles. Now if I click on Find Articles and Databases, this is going to take me to a variety of very well thought out resources. These are all the databases that Baker College students, staff, and faculty have access to, and these are arranged by disciplines. It begins with what are called general or interdisciplinary guides. These are all articles that are about general knowledge, but as you scroll down, you'll see that there's resources arranged in alphabetical order, moving from accounting to arts and design, automotive, and so on. Now I'm not going to read through all the guides here, but please take a look on your own. So I'm going to do the same search I did on Google, but this time I'm going to use EBSCO. Now that's a general interdisciplinary database, and a database is basically a repository for a number of wonderful sources. Please note that if you are trying to search for sources from home, you'll have to enter your Baker College Library number. You can find that number on the back of your Baker College ID card. Now once you've entered your library number, you can go ahead and feel free to start to do a search. I'm going to do the exact same terms I used in my Google search just to show you the difference. And I can already tell that this is going to be a fruitful search because this term that I put in is already pre-populated. That means there are already articles here tagged with this very language that I'm searching for. One important thing to note here is that you can see that this has taken me roughly about the same amount of time that it would to do a Google search. I just had to add in my library card number, so sometimes students think that this will take longer, but in fact it's about the same amount of time. Now, when we did a search using Google, we saw that there was close to 1 million hits. This has made much more of a narrow focus. We see that there's only 886 articles, but these are in fact all scholarly sources. Another great part of using a database is that it allows the user to narrow the focus of their search. So I can go ahead and limit this to full text. That means I'm only going to get articles that we have access to in PDF form. I'm also going to go ahead and narrow this to scholarly journals only. So that way, if your professor is asking you to use scholarly journal articles specifically, you'll know that's what you're using. Finally, I want to narrow my focus to articles from the last 5 years or so. And this will do that for me. So what happens when I decide to explore one of these PDF full text? Well, I can go ahead and click on the link and it will bring me to a wonderful graphic representation of that particular article. What I really like about this is that I can see the page numbers at the bottom of every page. When I'm using APA formatting, I know that I have to include either a paragraph number from an online source or a page number. I prefer to use PDFs for this very reason because it's much easier for me to see this page number here than it is to go through and count all the paragraphs in a single article online. Now I just wanted to direct your attention to a few other very helpful tools that you can only find in our Baker College database as opposed to the Google search or Bing search or Yahoo search. Right over here, there's a number of icons, and the first one looks like a Google Drive. You can use that to save your article to your own Baker College Google Drive, which is an invaluable resource, especially when you start to do a lot of research and you might have 10 or 15 different articles you want to make sure you save. Secondly, and a lot of students really love this, if I hover over this particular icon, this is the citation generator. Now, use citation generators with a bit of caution. This is being created by a computer, so you have to double check that it aligns with APA formatting. And you have to make sure that you pick out the APA reference as well. But as you can see here, this has created a picture-perfect APA reference for my project. I can go ahead and copy and paste this into my final paper, just making sure that I use the proper font, which is Times New Roman. Now I've just went ahead and clicked on the very next search result. This looks slightly different than the very first scholarly journal article I found, but as you begin to do more and more research, you get used to the genre of scholarly journal articles. This begins with an introduction and moves into the greater discussion. The same tools that I looked at in my first article are available, so if I want to create that APA citation, this shows up as well, but this is a good example. Notice how this name is all in capital letters. That's actually not APA formatting, so you'd have to go and change that. So again, take this with a grain of salt. This does work pretty nicely most of the time, but as a student, you have the ultimate editing control over your project. Make sure that your APA references are perfect in every way. Now, a lot of students ask me whether or not Google Scholar is an acceptable search engine, and while it is, I want to show you why I still prefer to use the databases. I'm going to put the same search terms I have in for the last two searches, the same one that I used in our database, and it does in fact take me to a number of sources that look pretty legitimate. I'm going to click on this one and see what happens. Well, this does appear to be from a scholarly journal article, which is great, but when I click on it, I don't have access. In fact, it's asking me to purchase it, which you should not have to do as a college student with access to databases. I'm going to go ahead and click on the second source that's listed here, and we'll see what happens there in this Google Scholar search. So this again is from the APA PsycNet, which sounds perfect, very scholarly, but when I get there, it gives me a 500 internal server error. We're going to hope that our third selection is a bit more successful. Let's click on that one and see what happens there in this Google Scholar search. Okay, again, this is taking me what appears to be a wonderful scholarly journal, but again, I don't have access. Again, my access is denied. I'm asked to either have an account or purchase this article for $37.50. You don't have to do this because most of these scholarly journal articles will be available when you log into guides.baker.edu and select the proper database. One last note here, if I just scroll through these results and I take a quick scan of the dates, this article is from 1989, this one is from 2004, and this one's from 1998. and this one's from 2010. So in the top results for this particular search, everything is at least 10 years old, if not older. Most of the professors in your courses will ask that you use recent research. And by recent, it depends on the course. This can mean 5 years old or less. In some cases, if you're in the medical field, sciences, or IT fields where things are constantly changing and we're learning new procedures and techniques, you may have to find articles that are less than 2 years old. This Google Scholar search has given me a lot of articles, but they're so dated, 2006, 2003, 1997, and so on and so forth. So that, my friends, is why I prefer to always use our guides.baker.edu and go straight to the databases rather than doing a Google search. Keeping in mind that the databases takes maybe a fraction of a second more because you must enter your Baker College library card number, but you will get much more research that is honed in, that is focused, that is scholarly, and that you know is credible. Thanks, and I hope you all have a great day. For more information about using scholarly sources in your essays, feel free to contact one of our professional tutors at the Baker College Writing Center online.